Well, you saw her 8 years ago this week. Barbara Lee, Democrat of California, rose a lone voice in Congress voting against the invasion of Afghanistan, saying she was convinced, among other things, that military action would not make the world a safer place. 8 years on, military action continues, coupled with a global administration of jails and detention centers that have done nothing good for U.S. relations with the world or this country's record on human rights. The facts are grim, and they're no longer hidden. On August 24th, the Obama administration released a declassified version of a 2004 Inspector General report on the CIA's tactics, and it's said to have been what prompted Attorney General Holder to investigate. David Cole, Georgetown professor and Nation contributor, has compiled the evidence into a book, The Torture Memos, Rationalizing the Unthinkable. David, thanks so much for putting all of this in black and white, a lot of black, actually, with a lot of blacked out parts of the memos here. Why did you think quickly that it was important to put everything together in one volume?
Well, I think ultimately it points to where accountability really needs to be focused, and that is not on the lone CIA line interrogators who may have gone beyond even the brutality that was authorized, but the people in power who authorized the brutality in the first place. And I think it's important for people to see how law was used to authorize what was plainly illegal.
Now, these memos have come out in dribs and drabs. There was a lot more attention when that first very classified report came out in 2004, much less when the declassified version came out in the middle of the summer. What are the most significant new things in the declassified version?
Well, I think that the most significant thing is you now see how the Office of Legal Counsel, which is supposed to be the conscience of the Justice Department, how they, over a period of 5 years, not just in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, but for a period of 5 years, continually authorized whatever the CIA wanted to do, and continued to do so, even as the facts became clear that there was a great deal of abuse because of the CIA Inspector General report in 2004. Even as it appeared in public that the law was getting stricter, they kept writing memos in secret saying to the CIA, keep doing what you're doing. And what you really see here is law at its worst. Lawyers treating law as something that just can be manipulated to rationalize what is clearly and plainly illegal on the face of it.
That was one of the most startling things to come out of the commentary that you've written, excellent commentary for the memos in this book, where you say, a lot of the questions were complex, but the verdicts, the decisions came out all the same.
Well, that's right. One of the things that's striking when you read it, there are many, many questions, and some of them are difficult. What is severe pain? What is prolonged mental suffering and the like? Some of these are not obvious. The answers aren't obvious. But what's remarkable is that given that they're difficult questions, if there was a good faith effort to address them, you might expect to see a kind of nuanced result where some measures are said to be okay, other measures are said to be clearly not okay. But instead what you see is on every point, the OLC lawyers reach the conclusion that whatever the CIA wants to do, it can do, whether it be slamming people into walls, stripping them naked, keeping them awake for 11 days straight, waterboarding them 183 times. None of this they find is torture. None of it's even cruel, inhuman, or degrading, a much lower bar. None of it even violates Common Article 3 of the Geneva Conventions, which requires that you treat any detainee with respect for their humanity. Is
it just me, or does this all remind you, too, of the effort that so many in the CIA and the Defense Department went to try to justify and rationalize the invasion of Iraq, which seemed was a predetermined result? You go back in the documents. That's what this reads like, too.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. There it was sort of made-up facts. Here it's some made-up facts, but a lot of it is made-up law. It's sort of taking law that is clearly designed to prohibit certain tactics and misinterpreting it in Orwellian fashion to say that it permits precisely what it's designed to prohibit.
It certainly feels from the reading as if those involved knew that it was going to get approved anyhow.
Well, they knew. Yeah, that's the job of a lawyer in the Justice Department in the Office of Legal Counsel, which is supposed to keep the executive branch within the law. Their job is to say no when political officials come and say, can we do something that's on its face illegal? But here it's quite clear that they saw their job as getting to yes, no matter what it took to get to yes. And so they use arguments that are just on the face of it ridiculous. I mean, one of the core claims is that these tactics are okay and they're not torture and they're not cruel, inhuman, and degrading because we use them in our own military training to train soldiers to withstand torture from other countries. And they say, well, since we waterboard our own people, well, then waterboarding can't possibly be torture. But, of course, it's totally different to be done in a voluntary setting where you know they're your friends, where you know you can stop it whenever you want, as opposed to when it's your enemy doing it to you. You have no idea whether there's any limits. You have no recourse because you're in a CIA black site.
And, of course, we're not only talking about waterboarding, heinous as it is. I mean, what are some of the other tactics that are documented here?
Waterboarding is sort of the limit, the end of the line, but it starts with slapping people in the face and the stomach. It includes forcing people to be naked for long periods of time, forcing them to undertake stress positions for hours on end that are extremely painful, depriving them of food, depriving them of sleep for up to 11 days, dousing them with cold water, subjecting them to very cold conditions, and slamming them into walls.
And then the threats. I mean, the threats used against some of these detainees involving drills and threats of, killing children.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's what we found in the CIA Inspector General report, which is that, here's what the OLC authorized. But essentially, once you tell CIA interrogators, these people are so less than human that you can waterboard them 183 times, what you find is that CIA interrogators quickly go further and used a gun to threaten one, a power drill to threaten another who was wearing a hood and naked, and threatening another that if there were another terrorist attack in the United States, we'll kill all your children.
What do you make of how this discussion is playing out in the media, such as it is?